is the best on the market. Welcome to this cold October morning. We've got a group of 5-0s camping, and I wanted to show you why I think the stove in this bag is the ultimate group camping stove. This is the SOTO Stormbreaker. In this video, I'm going to talk about unboxing the Stormbreaker and a little bit about history of liquid fuel stoves, going back from a primus that I have that was my dad's, and I didn't realise just how old it was until I revealed the date stamp on the bottom. So we're going to talk about the history of liquid fuel stoves, and on this camp last night I was using the stove in its liquid fuel mode, and now for breakfast I'm going on to gas, and it's 0.2 degrees this morning. So let's light this up and see how the gas performs for a good brew on. But first, let's have a little look at the unboxing and the history of liquid fuel stoves, and then I'll bring you back to the camp. So this is the kit with the 480 millilitres specific wide mouth fuel bottle. Really good quality, and to handle the pressures it's very thick aluminium. On the back here is printed some various stats about the product. Just reveals the actual stove inside, the SOTO Stormbreaker. Similar information. Now, I've used this before, but I've reboxed it especially for you guys. It won't be going in the box again after this. So in here you get a tough nylon bag. You get the stove itself, the burner unit, and the holder and regulator for the gas bottle. There's a little zip part in there, and I'll show you what that's for. You get the rather beefy pump unit. See later in the video what all these settings are for. There's small filters on each one. This is the air intake, and this is the fuel intake here. Of course, a pump, and that is the protection for the fuel hose insert. That just pops off there. And this is the little indicator, pressure indicator. You also get a repair kit with spanners for the various parts, some silicone grease, a number of O-rings, and fuel filters, and a very fine cleaner wire, needle cleaner as they call it. An aluminium base, but sadly no windshield, and the usual comprehensive instructions. So here's the instructions laid out for you. Side 1, side 2. It's worth noting that SOTO is owned by the Shin-Fuji burner company. They've been supplying industrial burners for many a year. Sorry about the shadow there. So here's all the components laid out, but don't be freaked out by this, because according to the conditions and your fuel supply, you'd take a selection of these. For instance, if it was moderate conditions and you were just using gas, you would take the burner, the gas adapter, the aluminium base plate, and a gas cartridge. That's going to a fairly compact package. If you were going to go onto liquid fuel, you would take the pump and the fuel bottle, but I also have a more compact fuel bottle. I'm going to give you some quick weights. The burner unit is 226 grams. The gas adapter is 56 grams. And the pump is 168, and this starts to make liquid fuel a much kind of beefier prospect. So
This might seem like a big heavy unit together at 285 grams, but a typical high quality lightweight remote gas canister stove that I will use weighs about 185 grams, but you're getting a larger, very thermal efficient unit here with a big wind burner. So these stoves represent the evolution of the liquid fuel stove right back from this 19... But before we go any further, I wanted to show you what's special about this old primus stove. So this was my dad's, and I've had it since about 1982. It's an original primus which predates 1962, which is when Primus sold out to Optimus, and I had it repaired in about 1984. That's the welding work there, and the company that did it, Marston Radiators, actually welded over the original date. So I'm going to see if I can actually rub this off and see it, and then we'll see the date stamp of the actual stove. So nice little bit of history in this video, and I'm never going to part with this. This was my dad's. He's still alive, he's in his 80s, and I used this for many years when I was a young teenager doing my first woodland. Wow, having rubbed that off, this stove is actually much older than I thought. My dad acquired this in the early 1950s, and I had it repaired. Actually, the date stamps there is 1981, and actually when I've rubbed it off there's a P on here with a 15 below, so that means this stove is from 1926. Still works absolutely excellently. So these stoves represent the evolution of the liquid fuel stove right back from this 1926 Primus, from the Whisperlite International from the early 80s, and eagle-eyed amongst you will spot that this is not a MSR bottle, it's a Primus bottle. That works fine, and I also upgraded the pump assembly later through to a modern version, the fire maple lava, and this started to become the true multi-fuel type of stove, where the nozzle and the valve on the top also works with a gas cylinder right through to the what I consider to be the modern ultimate, the rather lovely SOTO Stormbreaker. What all of these stoves have in common is the need to take the liquid fuel inside, in this case paraffin, and preheat it through some generator tubes. So you've got to preheat the Primus here with meths or other solid fuel in here. With the Whisperlite International, you pump liquid fuel rather dangerously into this little cup here and then ignite it. With the fire maple lava, there's a fuel collection basket inside, and that preheats a generator inside. And the thing about the SOTO Stormbreaker is using this rather clever pump assembly. When you're on start mode, it mixes air and fuel, so it'll just burn and heat the generator up straight away, so you don't have to have that liquid fuel burn. It'll give a gas and fuel mix to give an instant flame rather than just a sooty yellow flame. But I'm going to light the Primus for you and show you what that looks like in startup, and then of course in the video on the hill we'll be lighting the SOTO Stormbreaker. So when it comes to lighting the Primus, you just need a little bit of meths or some other fuel in the cup there. And of course they were using this stove right up on expeditions right up until the late 50s, when other versions started to come out. You have to have the pressure undone. And this was actually used on the 1953 Everest, not this model. They did more compact ones. This model is actually the Primus 221. So we'll just let that heat for a few minutes and then we'll do the valve up and get pumping. So that fuel's burning down quite nicely now, and if we were to try before that, what would happen is you had a little tiny flare up there, but that's burning a blue flame now, so that means the generator's hot enough to gasify the paraffin. Get that going. Over time I've replaced the gaskets in here. It's a leather gasket in the pump assembly, but it still works beautifully. I never use this on camps anymore, but for about once a year I'll get it out and fire it up, because I think it's just an absolutely lovely thing, though it is rather noisy. Let's go through the Whisperlite International starting procedure. Yeah, so that little basket's full of fuel, but if you accidentally let that spill over, it goes everywhere. Right, so that's lighting some of the actual liquid Coleman fuel in the bottom, or white gas, and when that's nearly burnt down, the generator tube here will be hot enough to let the fuel gasify, and the MSR will work with paraffin or petrol or white gas, but you do have to change the nozzle inside the actual jet, which is a very fiddly operation. And a crucial thing, you also have to do that with the fire maple lava. That comes with a couple of nozzles, but crucially you don't have to do that at all with the SOTO Stormbreaker, whether you're using it for butane, propane, or liquid fuels such as petrol. Now some might argue that that burns less efficiently because you're not using a dedicated nozzle, but it's a small loss of performance in exchange for much less filling. But if you knew what fuel you were using, you would probably do that at base camp. I think I put a little bit too much fuel in there. You can tell my wife's out for the day in her lovely kitchen with flames. Hello wife, hope you're not watching this. Right, so when that's burnt down, you can start to switch that on. And if you've got the timing right and you've preheated it enough, just as the fuel burns away in the bottom, you get a lovely blue flame. Now this is easy to go wrong really. If you're a bit premature with opening the gas, you can get a flare up of just liquid fuel coming out, but with experience you can do it. But there's no way I'd do this in a confined space. All of these are inherently dangerous with liquid fuel, but what SOTO have done makes the operation a whole lot simpler. So let me show you lighting that. Right, I've primed the stove so this little red marker comes out here. So the key to the operation of the SOTO is this clever valve system here. It's actually pushed down in the safe position here and it's on stop, but I can turn it round to the different settings such as start, run, stop and air without any fear of fuel or air going along the hose into the stove. So to start it, you would put it onto start mode, have your lighter ready and simply lift that up, light it, and that's actually a mix of air and Coleman fuel coming through. So I'd be reluctant to use this in a very confined space, but it's a much more controlled burn and a much safer option, as you've seen, compared to the MSR Whisperlite International, where you actually had a cup of liquid fuel. At least here you're getting something like a predictable flame. And I'll just keep the pressure up a little bit there as it burns down, and it takes around 40 seconds to a minute depending on conditions to get the generator tube kind of like heated there. And once you're confident that you've got a consistent blue flame, without any yellow at all, which is pretty much there, you can then turn it on to run. And on run there, it's burning just with a nice consistent blue flame. I'll just give it a little bit more pressure. That's going lovely now with a big tall flame. I don't know if you can see that. So hopefully you can see that lovely big flame there now. And then when you're ready to stop, you can obviously bring it down to a low simmer, or you can just go on to stop mode, or if you're, which will just turn it down slowly, or if you're going to transport it, you would just go onto air, and that'll just flush it through with air, and you can just hear it hissing now as it takes air from up here and clears the fuel hose out, and that will be ready soon for disassembly and transport. And I would just put that onto stop and click that down. So I hope you've seen there what a beautifully efficient lighting system that is with the SOTO Stormbreaker. Let's get on the hill. Right, we're at camp now. There's a group of us camping, spread out in this little bowl. If you can see in there, disguised, there's Andy in his bivvy bag, and it's time to get this SOTO lit. Now, this is when this stove's perfect. It's ideal for group cooking, but at the same time, it's late, we're cold, and I don't want any mucking about. So let's just see if I can get this lit without any fuss. Turn it to start, pull the plunger, there we go. Maybe it's not quite enough pressure. There's a fair breeze coming through here. I'll be warming that up now. Flaring a little bit. Okay, rock and roll. Get the windshield up, that'll definitely help. Right, does that look lit? So now we would just turn it to run there, and that should be burning a nice even blue flame, which looks fine. Right, let's get these burgers on. It's a nice wide base, sticking a big skillet on like that. Try and get them in.
Probably want to squash there.
Kicking the burgers in the dark, and we've got 1, 2, 3 young hungry people. How's the stove doing, David? How's the burgers?
Absolutely amazing, this stove. I can't believe that it's got so much control, but it's got white
white gas.
Gas, yeah. Basically, it's
good.
It's a revelation. Normally, it's just too hot. It's got loads of control.
It's been going a good 20 minutes now, and it's just burning like lovely little glowy thing. So, yeah, this is it. It's just what we want. It's just proving pretty solid, and it's just doing the job in the dark, in the cold. It's bloody freezing. We've had to put the kids in the tent. Yeah, you got it. So just onto the stop setting, and then away it goes. Just kind of peters out. That's it. Just a job. The lads here, Paul and Andy, are in the
Hjorth bag.
Yeah, apparently they are quite a lot of money, but they'll work as a hammock. They're foil lined, thermal, waterproof.
Yes, waterproof and with primal loft.
Everything. And Andy's wrapped in his, and they just, despite the red light, they just go invisible. So I've got the Simon Macaloo jacket on and over trousers and everything, and I'm still cold, and they're like really snug. So amazingly, inside, between his legs, he's got a glowing flame of a, what's that one called?
Uko.
Yeah, the Uko tea light one, just a small one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're on a
Helinox ground chair.
Yeah, so I thought I had things sorted. These guys are just kind of like masters, to be honest. Right, we're bubbling away the chocolate puddings. Taste the difference, chocolate orange puddings. And I'm fairly new to this stove, but it's just proven easy, even out in the dark, in the wind, somebody next to you all cozy, giving you wisecracks. It's still absolutely fine and dandy.
But I bet you'd love to look at the camp and see what people have. So we've got the lads here in the Hilleberg Una, and one of them has just been bivvying on the ground. I'm in the Nor tent Vern 1. Excuse the crossing pole having a bit of a wave in it, but I'm on a bit of a slope. I've got 3 kids in the MSR Tindheim 2. Vintage Dave is in his vintage Quasar. So I've just met John and Dan last night, who've cleverly found out this secret spot. I hope you enjoyed it, lads, but they were good company.
Enjoyed the spot, the weather not so much. It was our first Wildcamp as well, first time we've ever done.
Oh wow, fantastic. First Wildcampers. And how was it?
Oh, freezing cold, but unreal. Bit experienced now. We know that you get some better cold gear.
Yeah.
It's well chilly.
And they've pitched for the views on the edge, which is fabulous, but it was a bit exposed to the wind, eh?
My damp socks froze inside my tent. That was fun.
So they were in the Nature Height Mongar 2 and the Nature Height Tagar 2, which are great tents. We'll go and see what Richie's up to here. Looks like a Southern Cross. So Richie inside here is in the Terra Nova Southern Cross 2, which looks great in this wind up here. So that's us. Oh, back to the stove. So on gas now, in this temperature, it's 0.2 degrees. That's starting up real slow. But with this wide base here, just tip that over there, and that's starting to get a good burn on now. Slow and steady. It'll get a little bit faster as the generator tube starts to heat up. Now this is working well with the inverted canister, cooking the bacon. But the problem is with gas in these conditions, and that's cooking well, a nice steady heat, but gas, as the canister gets lower, you've still got the latent heat of expansion, and the canister gets cooler. And you know, that's kind of like doing all right, but could be better. And I'm going to switch over now onto white gas or Coleman fuel, and we'll see what difference that makes. So it's a case of just pop that gas off. It's very low actually, one of the reasons it was going down. Pull that little sleeve back, pop that on. Make sure that's down. Lighter ready. Start mode. Like that. With the stove still being hot, I can switch that over easily, and that should be pretty quick actually. So it's a blue flame straight away, so I've gone off gas. And you can see, maybe you can see, that's a much bigger flame now. But to be fair, this gas was virtually empty. It's going like an express train, that now. So my point is, for this type of group cooking at low temperatures, using liquid fuel with this stove is just the boy. you know, why do anything else? Now, don't get me wrong, when I'm solo camping, I'm still often going to be using the likes of the Fire Maple Polaris pressure regulated stove. Beautifully compact, weighs about 85 grams. But when it's cold and getting down to 0 degrees, I'm going to be using this stove with liquid fuel. It's a little bit heavier, and with all equipment there's a little bit of a compromise, but in winter you want that performance, you want that solid performance, and this is where this is, you know, absolutely doing the job. I haven't shown you much of simmer mode, but that will turn down nice and low. Right, great. Well, the lads are doing a great job being independent, taking the tent down there. Super proud of them. They've carried their own tent up. Lydia's first Wildcamp. Lydia, what do you think of it so far?
Very good.
Get your hands warm.
Bit cold though, I think. It was cold last night. That's boiled now, so I've turned that to stop. Since I'm going to pack the stove away, I'll turn it to air, and what that does is opens up to the air valve at the top, purges any fuel out, ready for packing away. I'll make some hot juice for the kids. So the trick is with there's this lovely little spring inside that just springs back beautifully, and then when you put the legs out, oh, great that. You have to try it to believe it. A bit warm. There you go. They're hot. Can't forget the dog, can you? So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Check out my other stove videos. My go-to stove really is the Fire Maple Polaris remote canister stove, although I really like this one as well for when I'm light. And as I said, in winter and group cooking, this is going to be my standby stove. So it's been a great camp. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
Say bye.